Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast, where we hear the latest figures for bird numbers in England, which still show a decline despite environmental payments for farmers, and how a small tweak to farm conservation payments in Scotland could change the fortunes of the corn bunting. First today, all week, we're focusing on top fruit, that's fruit grown on trees. Now, for many years, the British plum industry was in decline due to cheaper imports and poor profits. Between 1985 and 2017, more than 1,500 hectares of plum orchards were removed. Now, though, there are glimmers of a resurgence. New plum varieties and growing techniques are helping to change the equation in growers' favour. Scientists at the NIAB East Malling Research Station in Kent are trialling precision fertigation technology. Fertigation, it sounds complicated, but actually it just means adding fertiliser to an irrigation system. Theo White met up with Bruce McGlashan from the Orchard Fruit Company at the research station.
The majority of the trees in this orchard are a variety called Victoria, which people will probably recognise. It's probably the most recognisable variety that we grow in the UK. We're a fruit marketing business, and without a sustainable fruit industry, then we will basically have no fruit to market. So we see part of our role as being important to reinvest back into the industry. The best way we can do that is by supporting research and supporting science to make the fruit industry more efficient.
Brilliant. Let's go find out about this technology.
So I'm Dr. Mark Else, and I'm head of the Crop Science and Production Systems Department at NIAB East Malling.
So we're here by, what is it? It's a collection of jerry cans, of valves, of taps. It's definitely complicated looking, but I'm not sure that it's actually high-tech looking.
Yeah, so this is our fertigation station, and so this is where we supply the water and the fertiliser to the plum trees in order to try to optimise water use efficiency.
Exactly what is this technology?
Buried under the trees in the orchard, we have a series of sensors, and they measure the soil moisture potential. And we have those buried at different depths within the rooting system. And by looking at that data remotely, we can understand how much water the tree is using, how quickly the tree is using water, and therefore when it's time to supply irrigation.
Why is it needed?
Well, it's challenging for growers to understand exactly how much water to apply, especially in a year like 2025. Obviously, we've had lots of sunny weather, plums thrive on high light availability. The challenge, of course, is it's been a very dry season, and so it's a very good year to investigate the impacts of controlled fertigation on the potential for the crops. What we're trying to do is find the sweet spot where we're adding exactly the right amount of water at exactly the right time to meet demand with supply.
You promised to turn it on for me. Should we get it started?
Yes. So I'm just programming the irrigation valve here, and then there we go.
So is that clicking a pump?
Yes, it's these pumps here that are drawing up fertiliser solution from the tanks, as you can see here, and mixing that with the irrigation water and then sending that out to the orchard.
In the orchard behind you, we can see these pipes running along the bottom of the plum trees. I don't know if we can hear the dripping. A very gradual dripping coming out of these black plastic pipes, and once it's had enough of a drink, the system will know and it will turn it off.
Yes, so we are now collating all the data. We want to try and limit the amount of nitrogen that we're applying to the trees, and then when we move to the grower sites, we'll know how low is too low, and so we'll suggest a strategy that is a low risk strategy for them, but will also reduce the nitrogen inputs by, we hope, between 30 and 40%.
Mark, we're over now by your colleagues who are on a kind of metal trestle table in the orchard. What are they doing here?
So they're measuring the effects of the treatments we're applying on shoot water status.
So this work is studying how well hydrated you're keeping these plants with this system?
Yes.
Hello, what's your name?
Lucia.
So this is a very high-tech bit of equipment. There's a leaf in here at the moment, is there?
Yeah, this is the pressure chamber, and the air comes from that canister. It's compressed air. You basically create this airtight system with the leaf inside. Start filling that chamber with compressed air. So whenever the sap will start coming out, and that will tell you the amount of pressure that you applied for the sap to be pumped out of that specifically.
Bruce, a final thought from you. We've heard on the programme that plum growers have struggled, that demand isn't maybe, what it was. If people aren't buying them, how much will this help?
We hope that it'll encourage the commercial producers who are out there to plant more plums. I think one of the issues as to why there has been a decline in consumption is the reliability and availability, and to an extent the quality. So what we're trying to do is to extend the availability with a higher quality product, more consistent.
Bruce McGlashan from the Orchard Fruit Company. Bird numbers in England are still in significant decline, according to a new survey just published by the government. The statistics cover all types of wild birds, including upland, wetland, seabirds and farmland species. The survey takes into account records from 1970 to 2024. As we heard on the programme recently, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds had hoped that the decline in farmland birds was beginning to slow, but these latest figures show populations fell by 11% in the 5 years between 2019 and 2024. Professor Richard Gregory is head of monitoring at the RSPB Centre for Conservation Science.
The new statistics that have come out from the government today has actually shown a really sort of disappointing downturn in the farmland bird populations. That there's a sense, not just for the farmland birds, but for those in some other habitats, in fact, upland habitats and wetlands, there's a sort of acceleration of decline, which comes out very strongly in these statistics that go up to the year 2024.
And that decline was since 2019, is that right?
The long-term trend in the Farmland Bird Index in England, for example, we know that's declined by 64% since 1970. I think what's particularly prominent here in the last 5 years, in that little section from that 2018 to 2024, there's been another kind of significant decline of about 13% in England, which is that sort of rapid nosedive. I think that's the most worrying aspect of the statistics. We were very hopeful that maybe we were stabilising things in farmland birds. A lot of great work going on by lots of farmers, lots of people doing great things there. But the population, depressingly, has really taken a bit of a downturn.
Are there any reasons that we actually know of why there would be a decline in the last 5 years?
We don't have that research to hand now. We can only speculate as to whether it is continuing changes in land use and farming practice and so on, or is it additional factors that are emerging and we feel sort of palpably around us around climate change as well. We just don't know at this stage.
We know that farmers have been working very hard with environmental schemes to improve habitats, especially for birds. Does it mean that they're not working?
We know they're working when we put them in place, put in place nature-friendly farming. We know we can deliver results in that fashion. I think what's not working is that we clearly, from the numbers at least, we're not getting sufficient scale of that nature-friendly farming. I think some of the issue there is to ask whether the changes within stewardship schemes and the rollout of new schemes and the continuation of schemes is sufficient to allow those bird populations and the other wildlife to continue. And at the moment, that just isn't the case.
Well, we know that the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has said to us in a statement previously that it inherited untargeted schemes and it's considering how best to deliver for the environment, the public and farmers. Of course, the Sustainable Farming Incentive and Countryside Stewardship schemes have a hiatus at the moment. But are you saying, though, those schemes do need to continue and more of them need to be taken up?
I think that's it. The concern is that hiatus you describe is the reason that we're seeing this sudden downturn in the farmland bird populations. And
yeah, but the hiatus in the Sustainable Farming Incentive is only over the last few months. It's not over the last 5 years.
No, but in terms of the continuation of mid-tier schemes and higher tier schemes, we haven't seen the continuation and the updating of those schemes through time. There's a worry as we've gone through this phase of change. We haven't been able to put the nature-friendly farming into the countryside at the scale we need to maintain it.
Professor Richard Gregory from the RSPB. Well, as we've just heard, changes to farming practices can make a difference to farmland bird numbers. In the east of Scotland, corn buntings are bouncing back after a disastrous period of decline. In Aberdeenshire in the northeast, however, there's still work to do to get numbers up. So the RSPB and local farmers have come up with a way of helping the corn bunting at no extra cost. Richard Baines reports.
We're farming on a good commercial scale.
Peter Oosterhoff runs the extensive Savok farm in northeast Aberdeenshire.
And we're farming a mixture of cereal crops and cattle. The poorer areas of the farm, we do more environmentally focused projects.
Improving the soil helps both sides of the business.
Crimson clover, red clover, sweet clover, Persian clover, beersome clover.
Planting that mix attracts a subsidy under the Scottish Government's Agri-Environment Climate Scheme.
So it's a green manure crop, so it's grown to improve the soil structure, put nutrients into the soil, and then it also provides a good habitat for insects and birds and other wildlife as well.
So this is exactly the kind of sward that corn buntings like to nest in.
Alan Perkins is a local officer with the RSPB conservation charity.
Nice and dense, fairly tall, and what the birds do is they're nesting down here. You wouldn't be able to see a nest, and that's kind of the whole point. They like to kind of hide their nest.
The only problem is that at present, under the subsidy scheme, this green manure has to be a spring-sown crop. And in the nesting season, it's only a fraction of the height of this half-metre crop that we're looking at now in late August. That means that the birds look elsewhere.
The corn buntings are really attracted to these silage fields in the early part of the breeding season, so this is in May and early June.
But the normal June silage cutting routine rips up the nests before the bunting young are fledged. So the Agri-Environment Scheme has another subsidy for late silage mowing.
By delaying mowing of those fields until the end of July or early August, that can protect those nests and allow those chicks to fledge. And that works for the birds, but it doesn't always work for the farmer, because by delaying your mowing until so late, you lose a lot of quality as animal feed from the silage.
So to try to suit farmers and birds, the RSPB has financed a trial on a number of farms, including this one. It changed the green manure system.
So the trial was about sowing those plots in the autumn instead, and that would allow the crop to get a head start over the winter, so that by the following spring you've got that kind of nice tall dense vegetation that will attract the corn buntings. Trials showed that these autumn sown plots did indeed attract nesting corn buntings the following spring, and the nest success rates were pretty good as well. So we're happy that it kind of works from the bird's perspective, and it works from the farmer's perspective as well.
The RSPB is now lobbying the Scottish Government to change the scheme to allow autumn sowing. That's music to the ears of Peter Oosterhoff, who is backing the RSPB's call.
Green manure is a great option, particularly these clover mixes. Puts a lot of organic matter into the soil, and the clover fixes nitrogen. Working with the RSPB, we've got to see a bit more about what the outcomes are for the corn buntings, and just with small tweaks, the same funding can have a much better impact.
This is a tiny tweak to an agri-environment scheme, but it's the kind of thing that's really important to get the best out of the subsidies that we have.
That's absolutely right, yeah. It's just taking an existing option, just making a small change to it to make it work even better and provide additional benefits.
The Scottish Government welcomed the study's findings and said it will consider them as it improves its agri-environment support schemes.
Richard Baines and the corn bunting. That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Sarah Swadling. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.